All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. After winning 101 games in 2022, the Atlanta Braves headed to the postseason with the second best record in the National League. And there was hope that the Braves were going to be poised to defend their World Series crown from 2021. But in the NLDS, the Braves ran into a tough Philadelphia Phillies team as it was Philadelphia that sent Atlanta packing in 4 games. This year, Atlanta would go three better as they won 104 games during the regular season, as they had the best record in Major League Baseball. The Braves had the top batting average as a team in baseball. They hit 276. They hit 307 home runs, scored 947 runs, had more than 1,500 hits, while they also had the only pitcher in Major League Baseball this year in Spencer Strider to win 20 games. But with all of those accolades from the Braves this year during the regular season, which included most likely having the National League MVP in their lineup, whether it's going to be Ronald Acuna Jr. or Matt Olson, we still got to wait to see. We don't know. But nonetheless, these Phillies were not impressed, nor were they intimidated by the big bad Braves as they disposed of them once again in the divisional round in 4 games. Now, credit to the Phillies. At the end of the day, they shut down this Braves lineup as Atlanta only scored 7 runs during the 4 game series, which included being shut out at home in game number one. The Phillies won both starts by Spencer Strider. I mean, Spencer Strider, for the most part, was locked in during game number one. But at the end of the day, it was, this Philadelphia team, they just found a way to get those key hits. Spencer Strider gave up 1 run over 7 innings in game number one. Ronald Acuna Jr., he only hit 143 for this series. And if your big guys are not going to hit, that's always going to hurt you regardless of the team that you are in the postseason. The Braves only hit 186 as a team during this postseason run, while on the flip side for the Phillies as a team, they came in and they just raked. They had a 274 batting average for the series, 354 on base percentage compared to the 255 for Atlanta. And you know what? It showed in the final score for the most part of every single game. Plenty of chirping between the Braves and Phillies. And I mean, number one, that is to be expected this time of the year. It's October. It's postseason baseball. It's win or go home. Secondly, there's more, I'm not going to say trash talk, but there's more showmanship, if you will, in the current era of Major League Baseball, especially with celebrations after home runs, big plays, whatever. And finally, or not really finally, but another point rather, two divisional foes in the postseason. And I know they only play 13 times now as compared to 19 times a couple of years ago, but nonetheless, you still see more of your divisional foes than you do anybody else. And of course, Braves Phillies, there is no love lost between these two clubs. So I look at it like this on top of that, and I talked about this heading into the postseason. The Braves clinched the NL East at Citizens Bank Park, and then it was shown on the big screen out there in the outfield as far as congratulating the Braves for winning the NL East. And I said then, and I talked about it on my podcast, I said, hey, if you're the Phillies, you just got to sit back and watch that other team get celebrated for their accomplishment on your home turf. I mean, granted, the Braves were going to win the division. I get it. I'm not taking anything away from them on that. I mean, listen, the Braves won the division and they should have had the opportunity to celebrate it. But at the end of the day, you're in somebody else's house. And, granted, not only am I going to get on the Braves about that, but more as far as whomever decided to put that sign up. I'm sure if you're the Phillies, it got you riled up heading into this series. But you look at it, the Braves, they weren't ready to answer the bell in this series, while the Phillies were. In every facet of the game, the Phillies made more big plays. They got the crucial outs, they got the big hits, they made the better defensive plays. And I mean, let's be realistic. With the exception of that big catch by Michael Harris in game number two in Atlanta, you could really make the case that the Braves were about to get swept. That's how it was. I mean, the Phillies, they lost that game two, very tough loss. They didn't waver. They got a solid start from Aaron Nola in game three. Their bats came alive. Bryce Harper, is one of those where, you know what, you don't poke the bear. And Bryce Harper is one of those guys, the bigger the stage, the better that he plays. So you're looking at it like this. Bryce Harper wanted to go out there and make a show, and he did it. And then on top of that, you figure it doesn't take much to get the fans of Citizens Bank going. And honestly, it doesn't take much to get a Philadelphia sports fan going because those folks in that city and in that region, they are very intense. They love their sports teams. And when you give them something to cheer about, they're going to come out and support you. And remember, prior to last year, it was more than a decade since the Phillies had made the postseason. So those folks down there definitely wanted to have something to cheer about. And then going to game number four, I talked about it. I mean, Spencer Strider was solid. He gave the Braves a chance to win, but you knew that those fans at Citizens Bank, they were going to try to get under his skin, and as well as getting under the skin of this entire Braves team. So the fans, I think, in Philadelphia definitely had a factor in this one. Some people are going to say, what's next for the Braves? Should they move on from Brian Snicker? Whenever a team that has high expectations falls short, that's always going to be the first thing. Let's go out there and get rid of the manager. Brian Snicker is still a darn good manager. This Atlanta Braves team is not going anywhere from the standpoint that they're not going to fade into the sunset. You've got a lot of your core guys locked up to team friendly deals for this next several years. So the Braves simply are not going anywhere. They're still going to be one of the best teams in baseball. They just ran into a better October team here in the Philadelphia Phillies. I'll put it to you like this. I talked about this heading into this series. I said either one of these teams had what it took to win the postseason. I really said it was a flip of the coin, and I did anticipate it going five. But credit to the Phillies, they saw an opening and they jumped on it. And I think first things first, they put pressure and they put stress on this Braves lineup, and that's something, or this Braves pitching staff rather, and that's something that we're accustomed to seeing from the Braves. The Braves throughout the season, they've been the intimidators, if you will. They've been the ones who went out there and put stress on the opposing pitching staffs and put them in a big hole. That wasn't the case this time around. Philadelphia basically gave them a taste of their own medicine. I know that, some people might take offense to the home run celebrations from the Braves during the season, but guess what? Everybody does it now in the current Major League Baseball. So it's one of those things you got to deal with it. The Phillies felt like they wanted to go out there and get back at them in this series. You name it, whatever aspect or logic you want to come from, it's a part of the game. So if you're Philadelphia, that's three times now as a franchise that you've beaten the Braves in the postseason. The '93 in LCS, of course, last year in the LDS, and once again here in the LDS. So the Braves, all of that good work that they put together during the regular season is for naught, because at the end of the day, all they're going to be remembered by now is their shortcomings here in October for the second consecutive year. There's going to be people that are going to compare the current Braves to the Braves of the '90s. Those teams won so much during the regular season, but with the exception of the 1995 campaign, it never fully came together for them in the postseason. I'll tell you like this: it comes down to skill. It definitely has luck, has to have a part of it, but also it comes down to seizing the moment. And the Braves just were not able to seize the moment. The Phillies played like the better team. The Braves played hoping to win. The Phillies played expecting to win. And I think that was the biggest difference. The Phillies were more hungry. They had something to prove. That's why they're moving on to the LCS to take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And that's why the Braves are cleaning out their lockers today. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.